on the shark bite, which numbers do we want to see? Do you go over? Have questions about? 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 5, 3, so far. Okay, we'll go through those. 1, 2 can actually be done on this one, so I'll show you that as well. So 1, it's a horizontal line. So what type of slope does this have? 0. Undefined would be if it's vertical. Right? You could put this in decimals, but it gives you a graph already. So if you wanted to do it algebraically, you could find what this order pair is, find those points, and actually do the math. Two, if you solve by hand, that's fine. You could have also checked it in Desmos. So put in the entire equation, x equals 4 was that answer. You have to be good with these Desmos tricks, that way next Friday when you go to take the SOL, you remember these things, use these things to help you. 3, even though it doesn't say anything about perpendicular or parallel, it's still a right the equation, so you can still use your y equals mx plus b. So for this one, you would have to put in your y equals mx plus b. I'll change this in a second. It's going to ask for sliders, add those in, it'll put these at 1 and 1. Put in your points. Count your slope from here to here, and it ended up being down 6 to the right 12. So that would be -1/2. Change your m so that it matches, and then move your slider until it goes through those 2 points. So the equation, wow, I did not do that, was y equals -1/2x plus 2. You could do the math too. You would have to find the slope algebraically, put one of them in, know your slope formula, all those things. But if you remember this, it will make your life a lot easier. Questions on either of those so far? Number 4, if you were doing it algebraically, you would cross multiply. But you can put this entire thing into Desmos, the fractions and all. Change the variable to x, though, because it doesn't like n. And then, I still have something there. If you don't see anything, you either have to put them in separately, zoom out first, because the number might be bigger than what's on the screen. In this case, it was. If you zoom out and you still don't see anything, put in this side and then the other side, and that would show you if they're parallel to mean no solution, or overlap to mean infinitely many. But this should have been x or n equals -17. Questions on those 4? Five, it asks, he incorrectly solved this somewhere. We have to find the mistake. And it asks between which 2 steps did he make a mistake? Which 2 did you think? So it has to be like step 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, or 3 and 4, or 4 and 5. So 4 and 5. So 4 and 5. What mistake did they make here? Flip this side. So even if you weren't sure, what you could have done in Desmos is put in the original. And look and see what type of line is given, where is it shaded. So here I see a solid line, so it has to be an equal to, and it's everything above that, whereas this answer does not say that. says below that. So that would mean something there was wrong. But they should have switched the direction of the sign because they divided by a negative. Right. Questions on that? We're going to go over the TestNav and then I'll explain what we're doing today. So we went through 1 through 21, now we're going to be at 22. So I'll show you the tricks and answers for those. Anyone need another one of those? For this, you would need to rewrite what's given into an expression or an equation. The sum of, so we're adding two things. Sorry, the square of, everything's going to be squared, that comes after this. The sum of, we're adding two things, is equal to y. So it should look like y equals, in parentheses, x plus 5 squared. That would be your equation. And then you could do one of two things. Either start putting in 3 and 4 and see which one matches, or put that into Desmos, find the table, put in 3 and 4 and see what the values are. If I put in the equation, I don't need the y equals. I added the table, so in gear wheel, this was an equation, table popped up next to it. I put in 3 and 4, I get 64 and 81. So C, what was that answer? '23 is very similar. You have some expression that you can rewrite into, you have words that you can rewrite into an expression. One more than, so we're adding 1/4 the square of a number, so 1/4 is being multiplied to x is being squared, is y. So y equals, order doesn't really matter. I had it as 1/4 x squared plus 1, but if you had it backwards, that was fine. And then you have to plot 3 points on the grid that represent this. So again, you could start putting in values to see what works. Or you could put this in Desmos, look at either the graph or the table, and start plotting points. It says the coordinates have to be integers, so they can't be fractions, decimals, anything like that. If I put this in the table and I just had whatever the table popped up with, it gives you 5 values anyway. I just chose 3 of those. You could have chosen any 3. You could have kept putting in things. So I chose these 3, -2, 2, 0, 1, and 2, 2. This should be familiar to you. It's starting to make a U shape, so it would have been a quadratic. It also tells you that because it's squared, all those things. Right? 24, 25, 26, and I think one more are all your direct and inverse. So when we were talking about if something goes up together, or something goes down together, or if something goes up and the other goes down, this would be a good example of that. So when the pressure on the gas is 30 pounds, the volume is 120, and then when the gas is 40, the volume is 90. What happened? Did they go up together? Did they go down together? Did one go up, one go down? It went from 30 to 40?
Oh, one went up and down.
So that would be which type? Direct or inverse? Inverse. Direct is always going up or down together. So it can't be A and it can't be B. We know it's inverse. we're given two equations. We have to look and see which of these two would be the inverse. So you have different options. You can either find your k value based on the numbers, see which one matches, look at which one looks more like your inverse equations. Putting them all there for reference. So the first two are your actual equations, y equals kx, y equals k over x. Second two are how you find k equals y over x, k equals yx. You'll see one of these looks like this, and the other looks like this. So it's either direct or inverse. We said it was inverse already, so it would have to be the one that matches one of these, which would have to be D. So that would be all doing that without using Desmos, but this is how we would do it with Desmos. So if I put in both, one's there, but it's way out here. We said it was inverse because one goes up, one goes down. Inverse looks like this, so it has to be the one that matches that. So D was that answer. So you can get those right in a couple different ways. Knowing what they look like, knowing the equations, knowing if they go up or down together, or vice versa. But you have to keep all those things in mind. Questions so far? $25. It tells us a relation. And then they're asking, is it direct or inverse? One, we can get rid of some of these because direct can't have a y-intercept, so it can't be A. Direct doesn't look like this. Okay, so of the given ones, so of the rest of them, inverse also doesn't look like this, so it has to be without doing any math. So if you know what the equations look like, you could easily answer it. To do the math, if you think it's an inverse, multiply them, see if you get the same thing. You should. If you think it's direct, you would be dividing. In Desmos, so it's 25. If you made the table and you put in all the equations, it's only going to match one of them. And it curves. So this one. So D again is your answer. Okay. 26, it tells you to plot points that would be a direct. What do we remember or know about direct variation equations? Yes. So that is always going to be one of your points. That's like, if you know what direct is, that should be one of your points. We also know that the constant has to be the same. So if we have to plot 2 points, count your slope, plot another point. So we're going up 3, to the right 2. Or you could have plotted this one. But you just need 2 of them. If you wanted to double check, figure out what your slope is, put that into Desmos as an equation, y equals 3 over 2x, and it should match that. Okay. The last 2 were curve or line of best fit questions. So if I put in all the dots, I see that this is a quadratic, but that doesn't really help me because all the answers are quadratics. So I have to remember my quadratic regression or curve of best fit equation. The y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Mine says 2 because I'm using a second table in this. And when I do that, I see exact measures 1.7, 2.9, negative 5.2, which was D. You could also put these in and see which one matches. Just your points. So if I didn't do this part, but I just put in my points and I put in my lines, I could see which one overlaps it. Either or. And then 28 was line of best fit. So back to our y equals mx plus b. This one, put in all your stuff. You may have to zoom out because we're in the thousands. If you weren't sure, you could put in both and see which one matches more, but the line does. And then it also wants you to find when x is 40, which would be about 91,000. So D. I know sometimes you get multiple choice and you start getting the same one a lot, so you freak out and change your answer. Don't do that. It might actually be that there's 5 D's in a row. So you now have another SOL practice that you can go back, review them, use Desmos, practice all of those. Today, we're going to do something else. When you get this, don't look at it yet. You will need Desmos, so you can keep that up.
Do you want a short book?
Oh yes, pass up your short writing sheet. Thank you. So in this, you have a choice of whether you want to work as groups, don't care how many people are in your group, or work by yourself. But on each page, there are different learning targets. You'll be able to see them as we start. Your goal is to try to get through half of this packet, but there are some stipulations. You're going to only do a page at a time. After you've finished a page, you're going to come either whether your group is finished or you're finished. If you're working by yourself, you're going to come up to me and I'm going to check it. And I'm going to tell you whether you got them all right or not. I'm not going to tell you which ones are wrong if you didn't get them all right. Then your job is to go back to your group or go back and figure out which ones were not right, fix them, bring it back up to me a second time so I can check it, to which I'll show you which ones you got right and put a score on the top. And then you can move on to the next page. After you've gotten through half, then you can work on Khan Academy or keep going. That'll be up to you. But you have to get through at least half. So there's 14, 7 is what you need to get through. Does anyone have any questions on how that's going to work for this?
So, Are you allowed to use our notes?
Yes, you can use your notes, you can use Desmond's, you can use each other. Yes.
And we can
Yes.
also I would get one.
We did not get one.
I was like, why do I have so many actions?
Right? So you can start now, start on the first page. You should not move on to the second page until I've checked your paper twice, or if you got them all right the first time, then you can move on after that.